Now, the latest Global Peace Index paints a bleak picture about peace prospects around the world. The report, compiled by the Institute for Economics and Peace, shows that global peacefulness has deteriorated, and this is the 9th deterioration in peacefulness in the last 12 years. It says a new wave of tension and uncertainty as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic is offsetting recent strides made to reduce conflicts and crises around the world. Serge Stroobants is the Director of Operations for Europe, the Middle East and North Africa at the Institute for Economics and Peace, and he joins us now live from Brussels. Mr. Stroobants, a very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Globe. Hi, Mr. Serge Stroobants. Good evening to you. Welcome to the Globe.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's first look at the global picture. According to the latest Global Peace Index, the level of peacefulness is showing a drastic deterioration. What could the possible drivers of this drop be?
Well, when we compile the Global Peace Index, we always look at three domains with 23 indicators. So those domains would be the ongoing internal-external conflict, safety and security within society, and finally militarization. Over the past 10 years, we have seen that conflict has increased globally and has been the drivers of this decrease in peacefulness. Now, at the year-on-year evolution in the past year, so this decreased by 0.34%, the indicators that were the primary drivers for this change would be the political terror scale. This means torture, extrajudicial killing, and also imprisonment without trial. The second driver for this deterioration would be the number of IDPs and refugees worldwide, peaking at the number between 70 and 80 million. And thirdly, also the intensity of internal conflict. That would be the three drivers that were responsible primarily for the decrease in peacefulness last year.
Now, this report, Serge, notes a sharp increase in civil unrest since 2011. If you look around the world, it doesn't look like this aspect of the report will improve anytime soon. What really is fueling unhappiness in civilians and citizens in countries around the world?
Well, we have seen that the number of protests and demonstrations have more than doubled last year, and really an incredible increase in the number of riots, 282%, and the number of general strikes, 820%. So people have taken their right to ventilate their frustrations and also their grievances in the streets. And we have seen an increase worldwide. Europe was really at the epicenter of this increase, with more than 1,600 events over the past 10 years. Only 35% of those demonstrations were violent. In the rest of the world, we see a different picture, with also a strong increase, but also a strong increase of the violence of those demonstrations. And really, when we look at the drivers for those demonstrations, a very wide variety of different reasons, going from economic hardship to polarization in the political world to some forms of political instabilities, all those drivers will continue to exist and will also exacerbate in the future because of COVID-19. So this is the outlook for the future. We already seen more than double the number of civil unrest in the past 10 years, and this trend is going to be exacerbated by the frustrations that are linked with the lockdown and liberties taken away, but also because of the effects on the population of the economic crisis that is now unleashing all over the world.
Now, in terms of country rankings, South Africa improved 3 places from last year, but still remains on the wrong side of the index, as it were. So what did South Africa do right to earn the slight improvement in terms of the rankings? And at the same time, what is holding South Africa back? Because it is still ranked very poorly in world rankings.
Well, this increase in peacefulness for South Africa, we measured it in all 3 domains of or indicators. So you did better in ongoing internal and external conflict, in safety and security within your society, but also in the different levels of militarization and in the participation in UN peacekeeping operations. Now, when you look at those domains or those indicators that are pulling South Africa down to the 123rd position out of 163 countries, it's clearly the domain safety and security of your society. South Africa has the 6th highest homicide rate in the world, although we have seen that this indicator, the homicide rate, has been decreasing over the past decade. So there is an inverse tendency for this indicated in South Africa. We have also seen a steep increase in civil unrest and violent demonstrations in South Africa over the past 5 years. And although South Africa has improved in the past 2 years in this domain, safety and security within the society, it still ranks 140 out of 163 countries in this domain.
Now, there's a new wave of tension.
Yeah. So it's clearly inside your society.
We had lost you there for a second. There's a new wave of tension and uncertainty brought about by the devastating effects of COVID-19. So how does this feed into the index?
Well, we clearly expect a decrease in peacefulness in the coming years because of COVID-19. And we expect to see this decrease in the impact on all the indicators that we are using. As well, we measure the absence of violence or the fear of violence, but also in the investments that are going to be made making peace in the coming years. Clearly, we see a decrease. That's the outlook for the coming years.
The Middle East and North Africa have remained the least peaceful regions for years now. Does this, is this perhaps an indication that the world is not doing enough to intervene in conflicts raging in the different regions of the world?
Well, I would return that question. I would argue about that question. I think we're doing too much. And please do not get me wrong, but when you look at the countries in which interventions have been taking place in the past 15 to 20 years, they still are in the bottom of the Global Peace Index. When you look at the conflicts that are going on at the moment, those are conflicts that started as internal conflicts and then internationalized over the years. And when such a conflict is internationalizing, involving regional and global powers, becoming proxy wars, then we see that those conflicts intensify and also last longer. So I would say, almost ironically, I think we did too much in some parts of the world.
Well, the reason I'm asking that question, Serge, is that Iceland still remains the most peaceful country in the world, a position that it has held since 2008. On the other hand, Afghanistan is the least peaceful country in the world for the second year in a row, followed, if I'm not mistaken, followed by Syria, Iraq, South Sudan and Yemen. So what is it that these countries are not doing right, and what is it that Iceland is doing right?
Well, when you look at the very top of the Global Peace Index, you will always find back liberal democracies. So, of course, Iceland, New Zealand, number 1 and 2, always there. But then you start finding first European, but then global liberal democracies. Of course, those are the majority of the countries that are at the top of the index. There will always be some exceptions that will confirm this rule. At the bottom of the index, you clearly see fragile or fragilized countries that are emerging or still in conflict and where violence is really present on a daily basis.
And what would you say then are the key requirements for countries at the bottom of the rankings if they are to hold themselves, as it were, and improve their rankings?
Well, this is where the Institute for Economics and Peace comes in with the concept of positive peace. Positive peace is a systemic approach to peace. We have identified 8 pillars of positive peace within a system, so all interconnected, and they can bring the transformation. So positive peace, those are the attitudes, the institutions, and the processes that you need to put in place to create, maintain, and sustain peace. And we have measured at the Institute for Economics and Peace that once you do this investment, you will receive the economic, social, governance, and ecological benefits of such a situation. Just to give you an example, when we notice an increase in 1% of positive peace, we also can measure an increase of 3% of GDP. So there is a clear connection there between your investments and the levels of positive peace and also the economic, social, governance, and ecological benefits that result from such an investment. So to increase your ranking on the Global Peace Index, you need to invest in positive peace.
All right, Serge, we thank you for your time and for your insightful analysis. Much appreciated.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. Good evening.
All right, that was Serge Stroobants, the Director of Operations for Europe, the Middle East and North Africa at the Institute for Economics and Peace, joining us via Skype.